I had a really bad concussion.
It's now been 2 years, and what kinds of symptoms were you experiencing that made you want to move forward and try out this new device?
I felt like ever since my crash, I haven't quite gotten back to where I was. In my job, I've been a software developer, system administrator, a lot of things that take a lot of concentrated time in front of a computer, and I was finding that certain problems would be very frustrating for me. I want to explore some of the different configurations, placements for the electrodes to increase learning and memory.
With about $60 in parts ordered online, Jeff built a TDCS device for Erica.
I wanted to make her something that was all she wanted it to be, while also not wasting a bunch of money. The goal is to have it under 2 milliamps adjustable, so it's between 0.5 and 2 milliamps. I can, take the leads and test them and make sure that we're getting the voltage that we expect, we're getting the amperage that we expect, so that way it's not so little that it does nothing, and it's not too much that we fry any important brain parts. So there we go. Home-built TDCS. What does that feel like?
That I'm getting a much better effect. I could feel prickly and I feel more alert.
Erica told me she typically does TDCS for about 10 minutes a day while relaxing.
Erica, tell me how you feel now after finishing that TDCS session.
I feel alert, like I just woke up from a nice little nap. I feel more alert and I'm kind of ready to do stuff.
When you first heard about TDCS, did it make you nervous at all to, try and get involved in brain hacking in a DIY kind of way?
Not at all.
Really?
Yeah, no. It seemed pretty straightforward. I mean, the currents we're talking about are so low. I mean, low voltage, very low milliamps.
To say that just, passing a low level of current is automatically safe is just not true.
Marone Bixson is a professor of biomedical engineering at City College of New York.
It's great that it's simple, which makes it very deployable, which means that you can engineer carefully very safe devices. But it also makes people think that somehow anybody can do this without any sort of control and any kind of thought.
He recently co-founded a company called Soterix, which manufactures TDCS devices for use in clinical trials.
TDCS, as it's currently done in hospitals, in research centers, is considered very safe and very well tolerated. That is a very specific set of protocols. It's a very specific environment. It's a very specific set of devices.
He showed me how his research team builds computer models to predict how current hits the brain.
And what you're looking at here is what shows up actually at the brain. Warmer colors represent more current flow. You can see here's one electrode, here's the other. The red square is the anode electrode, and the blue square is the cathode electrode. The simplest way to think about it is the anode is the positive terminal of the battery, and the cathode is the negative terminal of the battery. And your head is the circuit.
When TDCS is applied in lab settings like this, it's typically no more than 2 milliamps of electricity, about the amount needed to power a small LED light bulb. The amount that actually reaches the cortex of the brain after passing through layers of skin, skull, fat, and cerebrospinal fluid is even smaller.
So what the brain is being bathed in is actually a very, very low level of direct current flow passing along the neurons. The brain is super sensitive to electricity because the brain uses electricity. The neurons in the brain have a voltage across them. And for a neuron at rest, which is sort of like a neuron sitting around and doing nothing, that's around minus 80 millivolts. If that voltage starts to increase for some reason, and if it increases enough to what's called a threshold that might be around minus 60 millivolts, it on its own then makes a decision to fire an action potential.
So instead of actually forcing a neuron to fire, you're just tweaking how much more input it needs, natural input it needs from the brain to fire on its own.
That's a good way to put it. It took me 10 years of research to come to that.
I figured this was the right place to try TDCS for the first time. All right, I'm all rigged up. I'm about to do transcranial direct stimulation in a controlled environment. So don't try this at home.
All right, so I'm getting 1.5 milliamps of stimulation, and I can definitely feel it on my skin. It's a little bit burny, prickly, kind of hot, and it kind of is itchy, like I want to scratch it, but I wouldn't say that it hurts.
But I didn't experience anything else.
Actually, for the low intensity that you got, you wouldn't expect to feel like a new person or like you've achieved some sort of, supernatural intelligence.
No, I honestly don't feel any different.
But researchers believe this barely noticeable amount of direct current can prime what's known as plasticity, the brain's natural ability to change.
But if a system is already learning, if a system is already undergoing plasticity, TDCS can enhance that plasticity.
What does TDCS do? What is it generally used for?
It's almost surprising how broad the applications are. So you're talking almost every neuropsychiatric disorder you might think of, let's say like schizophrenia or depression, and you're also talking about applications in cognitive enhancement.
How do you respond to people who say that this is all snake oil?
I've often used that analogy to snake oil myself. If I provided you something in a vial, and I said that that will help you with your depression, it'll help your cousin with their epilepsy, it'll make your niece better at math, and it all comes in one vial, that because I'm making so many claims, it stops being believable. I mean, the simple answer to that is, the TDCS is not one thing. It's not one thing in a vial. The way TDCS is made specific is by where we put the electrodes on the head and how we combine TDCS with training or with behavioral therapy.
I'm gonna just check the marks in your brain before putting the electrodes, okay? Okay.
When people do TDCS, they will put the electrodes in different locations on the head, and that is very intentional. So for example, you might deliver it to motor regions if you're dealing with a population, let's say, that had a stroke.
At Burke Rehabilitation Center, an ongoing study is testing to see if stroke patients can benefit. 78-year-old Marty Strix volunteered for the trial.
During the brain stimulation portion, did you feel anything?
There was a slight warmth, a little tingle, and that's about all.
So you felt it on your skin, but did you feel anything inside your brain, inside your mind?
No, I was looking for something like that, but no, never happened.
Patients undergo 20 minutes of TDCS, followed by robotic physical therapy. Instead of a human physical therapist, a robotic device is used to engage the patient's muscles, in this case by playing a kind of video game.
And do you feel like the robot's doing a bit of that work?
Whatever I can't do, then it takes over and gets you there, but I try to do as much as I can on my own.